friends. Happy Wednesday. I hope you all are doing well. It's the last day of school over here, so it's both exciting and frightening at the same time. Just kidding. Okay, let me just go live on Instagram. Here we go. All right, so doing this a little differently today because guess who's in town? Minnie is visiting, so she is going to be our hands and pen person. She's going to be showing us the recipe while I talk to you guys. So my name is Dr. Simran. Here's my Minnie. She's here. And we come on live every Wednesday to share with you simple plant-based recipes that you can make in your kitchen to optimize your health and your well-being. We have a very, very strong passion for this because my mom is a 2-time breast cancer survivor and I'm a BRCA1 previvor, meaning I haven't had cancer, but at very high risk of cancer because of my genetic mutation. And over the last 10 years, I have been on this journey of lifestyle and mindset as medicine, learn everything I can to reduce my own risk of cancer. And now I share all of that information with you guys so you can apply it to your life and optimize your longevity and your health span. So today we are actually doing something special because my mom and I put together a cookbook of recipes and we're very excited about it. And so since she's visiting for a few weeks, we're actually going to be testing out all of our recipes. And we had come up with these recipes, I guess, mostly during the pandemic. And so we are going to be testing them. So I'm not going to share the recipe with you today because once it comes out in the book, you'll get access to it. But we're going to be testing it out today and we're making a chickpea tofu salad. So like a smashed chickpea tofu salad sandwich. So very excited about it. Minnie, what do you have here? Let's see.
Okay.
Well, you don't have to show like that. Look, see the camera?
Okay.
Yeah, so you're good.
So that's I'm used to Optoronto, right? So anyway, this is chickpea. Then
so you have chickpeas and we have tofu. So we took tofu out of the package. We have about 1 cup of tofu. Now, the powerful part of this recipe, and if you're joining us, please say hi in the comments and tell us where you're tuning in from. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. I always find it awkward talking to ourselves on these. So it's much, much more fun when there's an engaged conversation. So we have chickpeas and tofu. So this is a plant-powered protein powerhouse of a recipe. So this is, I guess you can think of this like a equivalent of like a tuna type of sandwich is what we're coming up with. Hey, from South Carolina, nice to see you. Hopefully you have nicer weather than we do. It's been like raining outside of DC for the past week. But this is a plant-powered, like protein-packed sandwich. Okay, so we're gonna add some crunch to it. We're gonna add some spices to it, but this is where we're gonna get most of our protein and our fiber. So we have chickpeas and we have tofu. So let's add those in here. While Minnie mashes it, let's talk about it. So the benefit here is that with the tofu, both chickpeas and tofu are a great source of fiber, right? Prebiotic fiber, so that's good food for your gut bacteria, right? And when we feed our gut bacteria fiber, prebiotic fibers, it helps to reduce inflammation because the good bacteria will create these compounds called short-chain fatty acids, and those short-chain fatty acids then go to lower inflammation in the body. They help with our immune system. They help with our blood sugar control. They help with our metabolic health. So this fiber is extremely important to feed our good gut bacteria. And the more different types of fibers you eat from different plant foods, so tofu and chickpea and onions and peppers and cucumbers have different types of fibers. And so when you eat all sorts of plants, you're getting different types of fiber. Or imagine like a buffet, right? When you go to a buffet, there's a variety of foods. Well, that's what happens when you eat different types of fibers from different types of plants. It's like a buffet for your gut bacteria, and you end up cultivating more healthy gut bacteria or a healthy gut microbiome. It rained a lot last week, but very hot. Yeah, that's how it is. I just went outside with my dog, and now it's super hot outside here too, but at least the sun's out, so we're gonna take that. So fiber is just extremely important to feed our gut bacteria. And here's the other thing. It's June is cancer survivorship. I'm celebrating this one over here, 2-time breast cancer survivor, right? And while, we have so many treatments and all sorts of amazing technologies now that are, catching cancer earlier and also treating cancer so that people are living longer with cancer. The reality and the truth is also that, certain subsets of people are getting cancer at a much faster rate than ever before. And that's young people in their 30s and 40s, especially cancers like colorectal cancer, which are so closely linked to our lifestyle and our diet. I was just featured in an Eating Well article that was syndicated on Yahoo and AOL, and it's a beautiful article. And it literally, the title of the article is "The #1 Habit to Reduce Your Risk of Colorectal Cancer." If you know the answer, drop it in the chat, because we were just talking about it. It's eating more fiber, right? And we get that fiber from eating more plants. So the simplest thing to reduce your risk of not just colorectal cancer, but also breast cancer and other cancers is to eat more fiber. And the other thing that it does is, we have different types of fiber. So we have soluble fiber and we have insoluble fiber. So soluble fiber you think of as like a sponge, okay? And insoluble fiber you think of like a broom, right? And so insoluble fiber really helps you to keep things moving along in the colon. It helps with constipation and, keeping you regular. Whereas soluble fiber is like a sponge, and it really helps to regulate our blood sugar. It helps to regulate our hormones, especially things like estrogen, right? And so that's how it helps reduce risk of breast cancer, because it kind of soaks up all the excess estrogen. Then the other thing it also, you guys, hi. The other thing that it also does is the fiber, because it keeps things moving along in the colon, if there are any carcinogenic compounds, right? So we know that processed meat, so cured meats, things like bacon and ham and salami, are, according to the World Health Organization, a class 1 carcinogen, meaning we know that they increase risk of certain cancers like colorectal cancer. And so when you're eating fiber, say you are eating those sorts of foods which might have some carcinogenic compounds in, fiber helps things move along. So it reduces the amount of time that your colon is in contact with those compounds. So that's why getting these things moving is really, really, really important. So Landa Pack is saying, is tofu good for you because of soy? I'm afraid to try it to soy sauce. It seems to mess with me. I definitely need to eat more fiber. What have you noticed when you eat soy? You said soy sauce seems to mess with me. Because a lot of times when we're eating soy sauce, it's usually also in the context of other things in a meal. So, I would say, are you sure it's the soy sauce, or is it something else that you're eating in the meal? A lot of times it can, especially if you're buying like store-bought foods or frozen foods, like there's just a lot of ingredients in there. So what I would say is like, try to keep a food journal and see if it's really the soy sauce. But yes, tofu is very good for you. Tofu is a type of minimally processed soy. And so that's the other thing that we're putting in this recipe. We have chickpeas, which are a great source of plant protein, prebiotic fiber, iron. But then we have tofu, which also is a good source of all three of those. But the other thing we get from it is an antioxidant known as phytoestrogens. And phytoestrogens are basically the anti-estrogen gatekeeper for our body. So what phytoestrogens do, isoflavones in particular, what they do is they bind to our human estrogen receptor and they kind of play pretend. So the receptor thinks that it has estrogen bind to it. So then our estrogen can actually bind to the receptor. So it actually does the opposite of what most people think it does. It actually blocks excess estrogen from acting up in our body. So it works like there's a breast cancer medication we use called tamoxifen, which is an estrogen receptor blocker. That's essentially how soy works. So you're saying my stomach hurts really bad. It feels like a short virus. Maybe I really need to pay attention to if it's that or something else. I mean, right? Because soy sauce is usually in context of a whole meal. So what I would say is try to keep a food journal and see, what else you're eating in that meal that might be messing with you, right? But also listen to yourself. Your body. The only place where I would say people should not eat soy is if they truly have an allergy. Otherwise, soy is extremely safe. We have tons of human studies, human data now to show the benefits of soy as like a powerhouse food because of the protein, because of the fiber, because of the antioxidants and the phytoestrogens. They have been shown to not just reduce risk of primary breast cancer, but also reduce risk of breast cancer recurrence. So great to add into your diet. Okay, so thank you for that question. If you have any other questions, drop them in the chat. I also did put a Q&A box on Instagram, which I'm going to start to do every week, so that you guys can drop your questions beforehand, and can answer some of them on the live. All right, Minnie, what are you up to?
Now we can put
So we're going to add some red onions. So red onions are amazing, right? Onions and garlic add amazing flavor to your dishes. And this is going to be something that you can make and put in the fridge. So it's a great meal prep recipe. And you can eat it on crackers, you can eat it in a sandwich, you can eat it however you want, and it stays good in the fridge for 3 or 4 days. So you can eat it as part of your lunch or dinner or leftovers for lunch as well. So the onions add a great flavor to it. And then also onions are from the allium family, which also have cancer fighting properties. So really great. And then we're going to add some color. So we're going to add some yellow and orange peppers. And like I was telling my kids yesterday, what is the benefit of orange and yellow foods? They are very high in
vitamin C.
In vitamin C. So one thing I always do with my kids, guys, and if you have kids, like, educate them, right? Don't just force them to eat whatever it is that you put on the table. Like, and I know it's not easy. Trust me, I'm in that phase with my kids right now. It is constant, like, back and forth of trying to get them to just sit down and eat their meal in one sitting. But educate them on why we're eating the food we're eating and what the benefits are. So yesterday, the conversation in our house was, okay, we're eating yellow peppers and orange peppers with our tacos. And what do they have in there? Yellow and orange plant foods are a great source of vitamin C. And what is vitamin C good for? It's great for our immune system. So it helps our body fight off infections and bad bugs and all of the things. But here's the other power that comes to be when you pair like orange and yellow peppers with foods like tofu and chickpeas that are high iron. When you pair those two foods together, the vitamin C actually helps your body absorb more iron. And so that is really the power of combining these foods. Okay, so and also the peppers are going to add a great crunch to it. And then now we're adding our cucumbers, and cucumbers again are going to add a nice crunch to this. And we're using the little baby Persian cucumbers. Those are usually, they have less seeds. And so it's much better because they don't let go as much water. So it'll keep better in the fridge. The original recipe did call for tomatoes, but we decided to swap that out for peppers because then again, tomatoes are like a watery food, right? Okay, so all right, it's looking good so far, Minnie.
Yeah.
All right, now we have
microgreens.
Microgreens. What? So we have parsley. And again, like we're showing you this. This is one of those recipes where you can really throw in whatever you have in the fridge. So if you have cilantro, you can throw in cilantro. If you have basil, you throw in basil. If you don't and red pepper, yellow and orange pepper, you throw in red pepper, green pepper, like whatever you have in the fridge. You can use a regular onion. It doesn't matter. That's the beauty of this recipe. And recipes in general, guys, like don't follow recipes to the T if it's going to stress you out. Some people love to do that. I'm the kind of person where I'm like, okay, this is what I feel like making. I'm going to find a recipe and then I'm going to adapt it to what I have in my fridge and what I have in my pantry, because not only is that going to make things easier and quicker for you, less stressful, but it's also going to prevent waste, right? You don't have to run to the grocery store to grab one thing. Also, if you have good neighbors, friends, you could just go knock on someone's door and say, hey, can I have onion or garlic or whatever. Now we live in a community like that, and it's been really amazing to do that. All right, so this is coming together. You see how quickly I've been talking for 16 minutes, but really Minnie could have made this in like 5 minutes, and then it took another 5-6 minutes to prep the veggies. But this is something that comes together very quickly. So what are we using for the sauce? We're gonna use some hummus. And hummus is really a secret ingredient. So it's great because it's gonna add creaminess. So instead of using mayo, which is typically made from, a lot of oil and just like it's highly calorically dense, you use hummus and it adds the same kind of creamy texture. But in this situation, you're ending up getting, because hummus is made mostly from chickpeas, so you end up getting more protein added to your meal, more protein and more fiber. And then the other thing we're going to add in here is avocado. Now, the one thing about avocado, we're going to eat this now, but I wouldn't add this in here because it's going to kind of, so what we'll do is we will spread the avocado on our toast, and then we will put our chickpea tofu mash on there, and then we'll go from there. All right, then we have our Dijon mustard. And if you do want to use mayo, that's totally fine too. In fact, I found this like truffle aioli. If you're in the US and you have a Trader Joe's near you, we've been putting these on our burgers. It's really good. It's truffle aioli. So it's really nice. All right, let's look at some of the questions that I got. My kids can be picky. How do I get them to eat more plant-based meals like this without a fight? Keep offering the food. I think the biggest mistake we make as parents and as moms and as a society is that we believe there is such a thing as adult food and kid food. Right? Like you go to a restaurant and you have your menu and you have the kids menu. And if you look at the kids menu in most restaurants, it's like chicken nuggets, French fries, plain white pasta with butter, right? But our palate, just like anything else in life, has to get used to different flavors and different textures and different types of foods. And the only way to develop that palate is to actually eat the food and try the food. Now, that doesn't mean that your kids are going to love what you're putting in front of them every time. Like I have had periods of time where my kids loved broccoli. They will eat broccoli every single day with every single meal. And then I've had times where my kids want nothing to do with broccoli, right? But our job as parents is just to continue to offer it, right? And one of the things that we started in our house when our kids were quite young is, if there's a new food on the table, you don't have to eat a whole serving of it, but we have to try it, right? And so in this pursuit of just trying it, you're developing their palate. And this is how we've gotten our kids to really develop a love for foods that are not typically considered kid friendly. So things like dates and cashews and capers and olives and sauerkraut, like our kids love these foods. So it's really just about consistency and continuing to offer and not giving up, and knowing that, you putting in that effort is creating a lifelong pattern of the kind of foods that they're going to eat and be willing to try, right? So that's kind of what I would say. I'm not saying that it's easy all the time. I know, because I deal with that too, but it's worth it. All right, so now we're going for some apple cider vinegar. So we originally, but I decided that we should switch it out for apple cider vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is fermented, and I love the Bragg's version. It has the actual, the mother in it. You can see it at the bottom there. So I love this. So it's got more benefits than just like distilled vinegar or red wine vinegar. So that's what we decided to put in there. Okay. So really just for the seasoning, you can add anything you want, right? You have your typical salt, pepper. We're putting mustard, vinegar, nutritional yeast will give it some cheesy flavor. So let's get that. And then if you wanted, you can put some paprika. I think we had that actually. If you want to add smoked paprika, you can add that too to give it a bit of a smoky taste. And then to spice it up, you have a couple of options. You can do like crushed red pepper. You can add some hot sauce. What I loved are these pickled jalapenos. They're really, really good. So adding them on anything is really tasty. All right, let me toast our bread, and then we'll show you how this comes together here. So we're using Ezekiel bread. You guys know I love Ezekiel bread. And 2 slices of this are going to give you 6 grams of fiber and 10 grams of protein. So, along with the vitamins and minerals. So it's really not hard, guys. Like when you combine different plant foods, and it's really not hard to get enough protein. Like people always say, like, where do you get your protein on a plant-based diet? It's really not that hard. Start reading labels and realizing that we have protein in everything, and it all kind of adds up very quickly. But what most of us are deficient in, and I was just writing for an article the other day, is fiber, right? So the average American only eats 10 to 15 grams of fiber a day, when the recommended daily amount minimum is 25 grams for women and 30 grams of fiber a day for men. So like most people are not anywhere near the recommended amount of fiber. And we need fiber to keep us healthy, to keep our gut health healthy, for our heart health, for our brain health, for cancer risk reduction, for energy, and just to maintain a good quality of life from day to day. Because when we're eating mostly processed foods, our blood sugar levels, our energy levels go up, and then they come crashing down. Whereas when you're eating something like this, which is full of fiber and protein, what happens in your body is that your blood sugar goes up slowly, but then also comes down slowly. And what that means is that you have sustained energy levels throughout the day. You have mental clarity. You're not, dealing with brain fog all the time. You're not, you're not dealing with that blood sugar roller coaster all the time, right? That ultimately down the road, when you're eating a diet that's deplete in fiber, ends up leading to things like metabolic dysfunction and insulin resistance and prediabetes and diabetes, like all of those things, right? So Anyway, so that's what I would say there. All right, I always go on these little tangents. Let's see. All right. What makes this sandwich healthier than just grabbing a quick deli sandwich or a frozen meal? I mean, we kind of talked about this, right? First of all, your typical frozen meal is going to be very, very, very high in sodium. A lot of times there's going to be a lot of additives and preservatives in there. And, you know, there are some meals out there that do have a lot of like whole vegetables, and so those are the ingredients, and you really have to kind of be mindful of the companies and the brands that you're buying from. But here, you don't have to worry about it because you made it at home, right? First of all, it's going to be much cheaper, right? It's going to be fresh. It's going to be in your fridge for a few days so you can eat it more than once. And then you can control how much sugar, you control how much salt you're putting in there. You can season it and spice it the way you like it, right? So in general, when we're cooking at home, it's going to be healthier than when we're purchasing something from a frozen section. Once in a while, conveniently, do we all need to rely on frozen food? Yes, especially as moms. I get that, and I do it too. But what matters is, what are you doing most of the time, right? That's going to make the biggest difference when it comes to your health, but also your kids' health and everyone's health span in your family. Because the reality is, and I was telling someone this today, like, the majority of us think that our disease risk comes from our genetics. Well, my family, diabetes runs in my family, or this runs in my family, or that runs in my family. And so we just presume that we're at risk for this. But in reality, right, only 5 to 10% of diseases are actually in, which means that 85 to 90% of diseases today, especially the ones that are at epidemic levels today, are lifestyle related diseases. So what that really means is that it's not just diseases that run in families, it's habits that run in families, it's lifestyles that run in families, right? And so that's why we see the same diseases run in patterns in different people's families. So it's just a mindset shift. And in my mind, it's very empowering, because when I was 26 and they told me, you know, oh, you have the BRCA1 genetic mutation, you have an 87% lifetime risk of cancer. Imagine being 26 years old and being told you have an 87% lifetime risk of getting cancer. Like, that will paralyze anybody, right? The average woman's risk of breast cancer in her lifetime is 12%. Mine was 87%. And so food really did become my go-to place where I'm like, okay, I can't control my genes, but I can control the food that I'm eating, and the food that I'm eating will either, you know, help me reduce my risk of cancer, or it's going to fuel disease, right? So these are all things that are so important to think about. Okay. And lastly, as a mom, how do you stay motivated to keep eating healthy when life gets so overwhelming and chaotic? One step at a time, one day at a time, one meal at a time, right? Like, that's really the approach that you have to take, especially when you're a working mom with young kids, right? Like, it's the little things you do consistently, not perfectly, not every day, but consistently, that are going to make the biggest impact over time, right? And there's a great meme that you see on social media of like 7 glasses, right? So each glass represents one day of the week, right? And on Monday, the glass is full. On Tuesday, the glass is half empty. On Wednesday, the glass is full. On Thursday, it's a quarter full, right? And so it's kind of, no one's life is perfect, and life happens, right? We can't control our circumstances. We can control how we react to our circumstances, which is really what then goes on to determine the quality of our life. And so that's what you need to remember, that it's about consistency. And if today that means you're able to eat 1 meal at home and 2 is, you know, takeout, or 1 is a frozen meal and 1 is takeout, but tomorrow, because you had leftovers or because you meal prepped the day before, you're able to eat 3 meals at home, or
maybe there's a soccer tournament and you have to eat on the go, but maybe you go to a restaurant where there is healthy food options, or so you make it work the best that you can in the season of life that you're in, and trust that over time those seasons are going to change, and what you're able to do and not able to do is going to evolve. But it's just about showing up consistently in the best possible way that you can, because today is the youngest you're ever going to be. Today is the healthiest you're ever going to be. And if you don't take action today, with time, especially as women in midlife, I'm already in premature menopause. My mom is also in menopause. And as women in menopause, in midlife, mothering young children, from our risk of insulin resistance just goes up. Our risk of heart disease just goes up. Our risk of anabolic resistance, which is our ability to build muscle, right? Every year, we are losing 0.5 to 1% of our muscle mass. And so if you're not working out, or at least doing what you can, even if it's in the kitchen, curling chickpea cans, if you're not doing something to not build muscle, to maintain your muscle, then you're losing muscle. And if you're losing muscle, what that really translates to, and I can tell you as a palliative care doctor, what losing muscle translates to 20 years from now or 10 years from now is a fall and a fracture that could ultimately end your life. Because what I saw in my career is that my elderly patients, especially my women, that hip fracture cost them their life. Because in reality, in your 70s, when you have a hip fracture, in your 80s, when you have a hip fracture, the chances of you dying within the next year are 50%. So muscle is literally fuel for life. We need muscle to live. We need muscle to maintain our metabolic health. We need muscle to keep our bones strong. We need muscle to have a good quality of life and to age gracefully. So, if you've been on my lives, I go on these tangents, but it's just so important to recognize that everything we're doing today is either setting us up for a beautiful life ahead, or it's setting us up for a life of, frailty and disability. And the statistic is, if you think you're not the statistic, we could probably extend this globally now with the rates at which people are living with chronic illness. The statistic is the last 10 to 15 years of the average American's life are spent living with frailty and disability, and with chronic health conditions, where they're going in and out of the hospital, the doctor's appointments, and that honestly becomes their life. So the time of life where most of us think, I'm going to live my life when I'm retired and my kids are older and everything is done, is a time of life where most people don't have a life, because they spent their whole life not, taking care of themselves. So do what you can in the season of life you're in. There's no such thing as perfection. What I'm able to do today with a 6 and 8-year-old is very different than what I was able to do, 5 years ago, with little babies and working in the hospital and preparing for surgeries and, all the things. Different things are going to be happening in different seasons of your life. So just do what you're able to do in this season, and don't worry about the future. Don't worry about, yesterday. Just focus on today and what is possible for you, right? So that's what I would say. And if we don't have any more comments, let's make this sandwich, Min. Minnie walked away. She's like, I hear this girl go on these tangents every day. I don't have time to listen to her. She's like, I made you your food. Sitting there. Minnie, did you join the live? That's how you know moms are moms, right? Like, she's like joining in just to give me engagement. That's so funny. Yeah. Hilarious. All right. So here's the other thing. If there's something you can do today, it's eat some fermented food. So we have fiber, and then whoop, oh my gosh, I just spilled it. Oh gosh. Okay, we have fiber, but then we have fermented foods like sauerkraut and kimchi, and these are like superfoods for our gut bacteria. They absolutely love fermented foods. So if you can, try to get at least 1 or 2 different types of fermented food in your diet every day. So whether that's a spoonful of sauerkraut, usually just put the whole jar on the dinner table and everyone takes a spoonful before eating dinner, or you can incorporate something like miso. You can incorporate tempeh, which is a fermented type of soy. You can get a fermented yogurt or kefir, or whatever you can find, whatever you enjoy, but try to get some fermented foods in your diet every single day. I do enjoy kombucha. It's a fermented tea drink. Just be careful because some of them are like loaded with sugar. So you want to really get one that is not super packed with sugar. But they're really, really drink. All right, so now you see what I'm doing here, right? So I don't know why there's a shadow on the camera. Okay, but here you go. I have this beautiful sandwich, right? And I forgot to add my pickled jalapenos. There you go. And these are here, they're quite spicy, so I won't add too many. But this is like a very, very nutrient-packed meal, lunch, and on top of it, it's going to be absolutely delicious. So this recipe is one of the recipes in our book that we will be launching soon. And when we do, you will hear about it. And then the last thing, you always want to try to add some greens in every meal, right? So like these beautiful baby romaine in our CSA box this week. And they're super crunchy and delicious. And all we're gonna do now is, and there you go. All right, see? Super, super delicious, super nutrient packed. All right, and that is all. We are gonna go eat lunch now. So it was nice seeing you guys. Thanks for jumping on. I appreciate you, I love you, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. Bye, guys.